here in Aquashella Dallas, and we're going to check out some of the best aquariums, aquascapes, and of course the best fish and cichlids we could find here. There's also some really expensive fish, and I can't wait to show it, so let's dive right in. So here at Aquashella Dallas in 2024, I saw some incredible fish, rare fish, and even some expensive fish and cichlids, and I definitely wanted to highlight some of those after seeing the show, which was a really incredible experience. Starting off right here with maybe the most expensive that I saw, the golden catfish, which was $4,000. Definitely was an awesome fish, but not one that I would be spending money on. I can't imagine spending $4,000 on a catfish, but I'm sure some people do it. And then in a tank next to it were some beautiful archer fish. What I've really been intrigued by these guys, they have some really unique behavior, and they get a decent size as well. They're in a tank with some flagtails, which I've really considered for my South American tanks. And they are also in a tank with one of my favorites from the entire show, the fly river turtle. This guy is so awesome. They get huge though, so you need a really big tank, and you also need a lot of money. It was $2,000 here at Aquashella, and you'll start to see that theme that a lot of these fish are pretty rare, so they're pretty expensive, but you're also getting a pretty cool selection that you may not always have access to at your typical local fish stores or online. Next up, we're gonna see one of my favorite booths. They have incredible fish and some discus. And then in a lot of booths, they had some really good selections of arowana, some decent size arowanas and different types that you'll see throughout this video. I also really like this beautiful pair of discus, which was $750, and as you can see, they're a breeding pair with some of their fry right here in the tank, and it was really cool to see some of those baby discus there with them. But that wasn't the only discus in this booth. There was a huge holding tank with some really good size discus and some really good selection in general. Right next to that were some really beautiful frontosa, which I know me and my brothers have considered getting for a long time. And then there were a lot of different types of angelfish, some really good colors and selection. You could really get a cool selection and variety of fish here at Aquashella, including these albino denizen barbs. I have the regular type, but these were really cool to see. And then they had this tank of peacock bass, which had some pretty good size to them. I think there was even azules and tamensis in here with two big fire eels, and this just goes to show the selection and the size. It's pretty rare to see at local fish stores. Anytime I see peacock bass at stores, they're usually tiny, but these were some beautiful options. This is my first Aquashella in Dallas, and it's definitely the biggest facility. It is a really big area. I've been to the Chicago show a few times and it's awesome, but this one is definitely larger in scale, which makes sense because it's in Texas. And then you could also play the hits here with your standard Lake Malawi cichlids. These were peacocks and haps that looked absolutely beautiful from Beantown Aquatics. They import fish from Germany, and these guys are a really good size with color already. I think they're all males and a few catfish in here, but some really good options if you're looking for Lake Malawi cichlids. I met a few people that had just bought some Lake Malawi cichlids here, and they showed me the bags and they were all excited, which was really fun to see. And it was also really awesome just to meet so many of you. So many subscribers came up to me and just said hi, talk cichlids, and it was just really fun to meet so many people that have watched the channel, and I really appreciate any of you that came up and said hi. And most of the time here I was in the custom aquariums and custom cages booth, which had some really good setups, including this paludarium with a Chinese water dragon. And it was super cool. This guy, I don't think, moved for 2 full days at the show. But there was a paludarium underneath, and I really liked that. It was empty when we first set it up, but I convinced Mark Beavers from Custom Aquariums to let me put some cichlids in the bottom section there. So we went over to the booth at Quinn's Fins, and they let us borrow some of their Lake Malawi cichlids, put them in here in the bottom, and they were swimming back and forth while the lizard was hanging up at the top. So I really like this paludarium setup, and I would love to do one like this in the future. And then they had this awesome bearded dragon, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but definitely one of the coolest pets to have just because you can handle them so easily, take them out, and they're just really chill, and they really like being handled and around people. Most of the trip I've been hanging out in the Custom Aquariums booth with my guy Mark here.
Custom aquariums, custom cages.
And we've had, what is that custom cage?
That's a sun catcher.
Okay.
That has a lace monitor in it. And we have the paludarium here. You shown that already to them?
Yep.
Okay, good. And then the hybrid enclosure over here that has the bearded dragon.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of traffic through the booth because of those.
Yeah, a lot of people come through.
Yeah, so pretty fun time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm here hanging out with Will Nace, who is the king of reptiles. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know about king. Pretty high up there.
Yeah, but we've just been hanging out in the custom aquariums booth, and what do you got here?
So this is Bartholomew. He is a bearded dragon. He's about 10 years old. These guys are really cool. They make great starter reptiles for kids. Because of this right here, they just kind of sit, they'll chill in your hand once you work with them a lot. Come all the way from Australia, eat all different types of food, so they're awesome reptiles.
And he just kind of chills here, and everyone just comes up to him.
Just come up, pet them, and everybody loves it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with me this weekend. It's been fun. And also just being in this booth, I got to see Will and his wife Summer Nace put together the sun catcher here with the awesome lace monitor. Everyone was stopping by and just taking pictures and video of this lizard because it was really awesome and the enclosure itself was really cool. And we'll definitely hang with Will and Summer in the next video, which is going to be an awesome one as well. But I just enjoyed my time at Aquashella, hanging with the Custom Aquariums crew and meeting all of you, like I said. And then just going back to the Quinn's Fins booth, they had a really unique selection of fish, including this gulper catfish for I think $150, and it definitely looked like it was ready to eat anything that came in its tank. I think they can eat some pretty large fish, way bigger than their own mouth. Then they had some different species of bikers, which I really love. And then the albino clown knife, which was $850. This was a really, really cool specimen, a juvenile that will eventually get really big. There were some flagtails throughout the show, and then some Lake Tanganyikan cichlids here, some of your more community fish like your Leolupis, shell dwellers, I think Burchardi were in here. So you could really get a good selection. They kind of covered all the bases when it came to tropical fish and cichlids. And like I said, a lot of options when it comes to arowana. Some decent sized ones here, a black arowana that was $200. And right next to that was one of the coolest fish in the whole show, the Cross River Puffer. And this one I think is pretty rare. I've never even heard of it. It was $1,500 though, so you would have to be really serious if you're gonna buy this guy. But right next to him was another tank with the Imbu Puffer, which was $750, and he was in a tank with some Frontosa and another arowana. There were some smaller Congo puffers in this tank with some African butterfly cichlids, but they definitely had a good selection of somewhat rare fish that you may not always see at local fish stores or have access to. I really like the exodons, which are basically a schooling, smaller piranha species. I would definitely like to get a tank of these guys at some point. And then going back to Quinn's Fins, they had some more Lake Malawi cichlids with some good size and color. And then they had an albino arowana with some decent size to it that was $350, so again, one of the more expensive fish at the show. And then two of my favorite at the show, I think, were the two albino Malawi eye biters, which are just super cool. And then they had some of my other favorite peacocks and haps here. And then next to the Custom Aquariums booth where we were, there were a lot of fish in selection here, including more puffers, South American puffers, and then these spotted Congo puffers, which were $200 for some pretty small fish. But yeah, there was just a really good selection of fish throughout the show, at least when it comes to an Aquashella, which I was surprised by. But that wasn't all the show had to offer. So right here, this is the Fluval Aquascaping Challenge, and there are some awesome aquascapes and talent on showcase here. Let's check out some of my favorites. Yeah, I love these two aquascapes, how the driftwood connected them. And then one of my favorites I've seen in a long time was this one with Dragonstone, really packed in with the rock and different plants. It was a really cool aquascape. And some of these just give some really good inspiration for your own tanks in the future. There were also a lot of aquascaping materials like driftwood and plants that you could buy at the show. I really like this tank, which is kind of in the middle of the show. It was really crystal clear with these rasbora, the dragonstone leading up to more of a tree structure.
And then in the Carib Sea booth, they had this little nano aquarium, which I liked, the red background and a neat little aquascape. It's really cool to see some of these different setups from all these great companies. But obviously at Aquashella, there is a huge section for saltwater. You could buy a ton of different coral and fish there. I really like this booth from Tsunami Coral Reef, which had these really large artificial reefs that they could put into some bigger tank setups, especially if you don't have reef safe fish. So I really like that. But overall, just a lot of people, and there are definitely a lot of saltwater people here as well.
It's not really Aquashella unless you got a big old clownfish.
And then Cichlids had a booth here with their Ultra 9000 on display, which I can't wait to get my hands on. There are some other tanks that weren't really my cup of tea, like these glowfish tanks, but some people might like them or find them kind of cool or unique. And then last but not least, the other cichlids I found here. I think I filmed every cichlid that I could find at the show.
So that does it for the highlights of Aquasella Dallas. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one.